There we go. We'll start over again. That sounds a lot better. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special council meeting for North Perth on Monday, June 15th. I'll officially call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to note this time at 6 p.m. Also, please note, clerk line, that we have regrets this evening from Mayor Kasenberg and Councillor Andreessen. At this time, if everyone would rise, we'll play the national anthem. We acknowledge that we're on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous people of Canada and show respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect in this land and live with peace and friendship. Moving on to number 4 on our agenda, does anyone would like to declare pecuniary interest at this time? Seeing none, if you do so throughout the meeting, please do so at any time. Moving on to number 5, confirmation of the agenda. Clerk, are there any additions to the agenda?
Through the chair, no additions to the agenda tonight.
Thank you. I have a resolution that reads as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Moved by Councillor Anstett, second by Councillor Rothwell. And that is approved. Thank you. Moving on our agenda, business to be considered. 6.1, Development Charges Reduction Program. And I believe Ashton's going to speak with this. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Cullum and members of Council. So on March 30th of this year, Canada and Ontario announced the Canada-Ontario Partnership to Build, with a commitment of $8.8 billion over 10 years. Out of that, the province launched the Development Charges Reduction Program, or DCRP, on June 1st of this year. It's an application-based program that allows municipalities to access 90% of federal and provincial funding for housing enabling infrastructure, such as water, wastewater, stormwater, roads, and similar assets. However, you have to commit to reducing your development charges, residential development charges, by at least 30 to 50% for a minimum of 3 years. Those reductions are also retroactive to March 30th of this year. Applications for this program are due by this Friday, June 19th at 10 a.m. Applications are prioritized based on how deep your DC reduction is, how many housing units benefit, and how much the municipality contributes to the program as well. North Perth meets the basic eligibility of having an active DC bylaw by the March 30th timeline. One of the assessing figures in the application is having projects that are shovel-ready. At this time, the municipality does not currently have immediate shovel-ready projects, housing-enabling infrastructure projects that would meet the program's criteria. However, despite not having immediate shovel-ready projects, staff met to review the municipality's DC background study and assessed each project against the DCRP's eligibility and assessment criteria. It was determined that 5 projects that could form the basis of an application includes the sewage treatment plant upgrade, water capacity improvements in Listowel and Atwood, the Atwood Main Street water main, and McDonald Street West reconstruction, all of which will total in $25.9 million in DC eligible costs. Keep note that these are DC eligible costs, and the total project costs actually have a combined value of $32 million. But I want to be clear, as mentioned, the majority of these projects are not considered shovel-ready. They don't have detailed engineering, environmental assessments, or approved capital plan status. Looking at the program, there are some advantages to this. Up to 90% cost sharing could advance projects that we would otherwise need to debenture, similar to the wastewater treatment plant that was done a number of years ago. It signals alignment with the province's housing priorities, and reducing DC could support development momentum in the municipality. But the question is, what happens if North Perth is successful? So here are some highlights from the report of what we're potentially committing to if successful. DC revenue loss. A 30 to 50% cut in residential DCs for a minimum of 3 years under a medium growth or 30% cost to us would roughly amount to $10.5 million, while at 50%, it's $17.6 million. Included in the report is detailed financial analysis on the various scenarios. One thing I want to be clear on is that these are estimates based on growth projections from the 2024 DC study. These will likely vary significantly, but it's the best information we have available considering the timeline and preparing this report. If there's even higher growth than anticipated, the municipality, in theory, could be losing DC revenues in excess of the grant funding we would receive for the projects we apply for. Moving on, the municipal contribution. With these projects, as mentioned earlier, we are required to put a minimum of 10% contributions into the project, as the province and feds are contributing up to 90%. So that would roughly equate to $2.6 million across these 5 projects, funded either through the tax levy, reserves, or user rates. Cost overruns. If any of these projects come in over budget, we'd be responsible for these costs. And at this stage, it's unclear of where we'd be able to leverage these funds as such as an avenue through additional DCs. However, in the absence of this information, it would most likely fall in the tax base, the user fees, or reserves. So it's important to note that the cost estimates outlined in the report are derived from the 2024 DC study. A number of these projects were high-level estimates for planning purposes and lacked detailed design or engineering. As such, we cannot quantify the financial risk exposure at this point in time. Operating and life cycle cost. Building infrastructure is one thing, but running it is another. Expanding water and wastewater capacity means long-term operating costs, mostly hitting user rates that persist beyond the grant period of the project. In the application, we must demonstrate we will be able to fulfill these costs on an ongoing basis. Staff capacity. Several of these projects aren't in our approved capital plan or are planned definitively in our 10-year capital forecast at this point in time. If this application is approved, this would require a significant shift in our capital priorities and would compete against those currently slated in our 10-year capital forecast, such as the Big Dig. And lastly, the other one is the reputational risk. When the 3-year period expires, DC rates would snap back to the current rates. To the public and development community, that will look like a significant increase, even though it's just returning back to the normal rate that's currently in effect today. The political pressure to maintain the discounted rates could arise at this point in time. This would have real impacts in the absence of funding to close that gap if it were to remain at a reduced rate. So overall, if we do apply and succeed, we're committing to this municipality to significant financial obligations and risks on projects that are not fully scoped at this point in time. Our current combined rate for a single or semi-detached unit is roughly $34,000, excluding the NEMF rate. At the 50% reduction, the developer saves just over $17,000 per unit. The report references an average home price of around $612,000, but to be precise, that's the average resale price. It is not the cost of a new detached home, which in today's market could be typically higher. So that $17,000 as a percentage of the actual cost of new construction could be expected to be potentially smaller than the 2.8% that the report outlines. CMHC also published a report on June 3rd that concluded reducing or eliminating DCs will not solve the housing crisis, and that for smaller municipalities with moderate DC rates, particularly in our scenarios, the potential to stimulate new housing through DC reduction alone is very limited. So included in the report is two options for council to consider. Option 1 is to receive this report for information and do not proceed with the DCRP application at this time. Staff will monitor for future intakes and importantly, will begin advancing planning and financial analysis so that when the next opportunity arises, we'd be in a better position to make an application. As for option 2, staff would submit an application with the proposed DC reduction percentage, and council will be required to commit to reducing DCs for a minimum period of 3 years and incorporating these projects into the capital plan and accepting the financial risks that have been outlined tonight. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Ashton. Colleagues, I look to first comments or questions. First on speakers list, Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kellum, and thank you, Ashton, for the report. I guess it's unfortunate at this point in time that when the government puts this on, they have stuff that we need to have shovel ready. But personally, I think there is a significant amount of risk as compared to possibly a limited benefit, of which the report alludes to that with our moderate DC rates. I think it would be great to do something, but I think this council needs to be very cognizant going forward that we also need to grow into the new clothes that we're in now before we start biting into a lot more. We have a lot more capital. It's not even as a capital forecast yet. I just think it's incredibly risky right now. I do not want to make an application for that, so I'm going for option 1. My 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Richardson. Anyone else? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks for the report, Ashton. Great detail. To me, it seems like a program that is designed for big cities, not for North Perth. It's designed for true cities. I'm not even sure Stratford would be big enough to take advantage of it, but I think it's designed for the Torontos, the Vancouvers, the Ottawas. So I just don't see enough benefit, and I see too much risk that we're getting the cart before the horse on some of these projects that we're not ready for. And I just think there's too much risk for us. So I'm in favor of option 1 and keep getting ready because there will be more potential programs down the road.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Bassett? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ashton.
Through your Deputy Mayor Kellum, and also to the point of Stratford, I believe it went to their council last week and they declined putting in an application, just for council's information.
They did. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Kellum. I am in agreement with the point that was made about continuing to reduce development charges, not doing what it needs to do to close the gap in affordability and housing prices. You know, if there was a way to require a commitment from developers that those savings would be passed on to home buyers, maybe we'd be having a different conversation, but we're not. And I would agree with my colleagues that this feels something like a plan designed for much, much larger communities than North Perth. So I also am not in favor of moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor Kellum. And thank you, Ashton, for your report and the rest of the staff as well. I agree with what my colleagues have said with respect to the proposal and agree with option 1. The difficulty, I think, here is that we're talking about affordability, and frankly, it's only affordability for new housing developments. We do not touch the balance and the majority, as I understand, of people that are looking for their first home, their 8th home that they've had in succession and so on. We don't touch any resale or anything else. And when we look at our numbers, as large or small as they may be in terms of new home builds, this is a component which, as our colleagues have said, puts us in a risk position, which I don't think is helpful for us going forward as a community, as a municipality. So I think it's wonderful that the federal and provincial government have brought this forward. I'm not sure if, through you, Ashton, through the mayor to Ashton, if staff, other than our comment about Stratford, if other communities of our size or slightly larger have made that same determination. Not that we have to do what everybody else does, but it would actually be nice to hear that. And lastly, it would really be nice if the province actually gave us a wee bit more time to actually have this consideration. And I understand staff were under stress to get us this report and scrambled to get our quorum of council here so we could actually have a decision made. And if we are going to make the decision that we're going to put our ears back and go ahead with this by the end of the week, then there's a lot of work to do. So perhaps in conversation, if council agrees, we could at least have our conversations with our MPP and perhaps let them know is that we appreciate this, but wow, you're really putting us under the gun.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good evening, Council. I did attend a meeting with some of the regional CAOs today. This item was not on the agenda but got brought up. As Ashton has said, Stratford did decline it. I understand St. Mary's has declined it. There was a report going to Perth East tonight, and that's the latest information I have. But it seems like other smaller municipalities are declining it from what we're hearing around the industry.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other councillors? No more comments? Seeing none, and looking around the table, it looks like we're moving for option 1. So if you're comfortable with that, I'll read the resolution. Resolution that reads as follows. That Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the Development Charges Reduction Program report for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Richardson, second by Councillor Duncan. Clerk, let's have that vote.
I never popped up. I'm in favor.
Councillor Johnson records a manual vote. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for your report. So now moving on to our agenda, we have the confirmatory bylaw, if there's nothing else. And it reads as follows. That bylaw number 46, 2026, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth is hereby passed. Moved by Councillor Blazak, second by Councillor Johnson. Clerk, let's have that vote.
I'm in favor again.
Recorder vote by Councillor Johnston. That is carried. And finally, the adjournment, that the council meeting adjourns at 6:18 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, second by Councillor Nordum. It's non-debatable. Let's have that vote.
I'm in favor.
Once again.